Hello, everyone. Welcome to Inside News. I'm Dale Matthews, and here's Mike Jones. Hello, Mike.
Hey Dale, how you doing this evening?
I'm okay, and we're joined by Viken Nikodian again. He's going to tell us the end of his story. Well, that sounds a bit apocalyptic, but he's going to talk part two of his story. Over my shoulder, you see more fireworks, because that's what we have, and over this shoulder, you see Joseph Rice and George Bacchus, one of the mine owners, and his partner, and we'll have George on a little bit later in this show. Viken, you had indicated to us yesterday that you thought you knew a really good question to ask George Bacchus, one of the mine owners of the Sugar Pine Mine. What was that question again?
Well, I think the question is, how is the fundraising going for your legal defense?
Right.
Do you have a bank account? Are you receiving money for your legal defense? Because you, George, are the reason we did this whole operation.
Right, but you were indicated to us last night that you felt that the reason that that would be a pretty interesting question is why?
Well, because George indicated that he doesn't actually have access to either the PayPal account or any other account that's collecting that money, and he's not seen much or any action on it in a while. So he was kind of concerned.
So are you, you seemed last night that you may have been suggesting that perhaps that money was coming in, but it may not be going to the right place. Is that your contention?
That is the big question. It's an unknown. So, and if George actually knows the answer to that, great. But it's time to ask him.
Mike has a question for you. We're mostly going to be questions this evening, but we're going to have you talk a little bit about this. You described it on the website as a star chamber, a kind of a trial where perhaps you weren't invited to come and speak. But Mike has a question for you right from the get-go. Go ahead.
Go
Mike.
for it.
Okay, so now, as to the content of the website, are you Josephine Grant? Or do you know who Josephine Grant is?
I have no idea who that person is. I don't think I know that name at all. Who's Josephine Grant?
So the thing is that earlier in Facebook, and you probably saw this, that Joseph Rice is saying that you are the owner of the website. You're the one who put the website out.
Wait, the Oath Keepers Joco website, right?
Oh no. We're talking about the Principled Patriot website.
Just before you answer, Mike, could you please put up the website called principledpatriot.com, not principledpatriot.com. Here is the website.
Okay, this website, yes.
Right. Yeah. So Joseph Rice is contending on, in Josephine County politics here earlier today, and I assumed you saw it because you're a member of that site as well. That he says that this is your website, that you're the guy.
I have contributed material to this website, but that's all I have to say about that. Clearly my emails are up there, and if you look at the email that Joseph Rice himself sent after his Star Chamber thing, he says that all the emails are going to be given to whoever asks. So that's how they ended up there. And
let me ask
right.
Sorry, let me ask you a follow-up question.
Sure.
Let me put it in a slightly different way.
Sure.
The contention is that this website is your creation, that it has some content on it from you, but this is Viken Nikodian's website, and it's called Principled Patriot. Is that true?
I'm not going to say whose it actually is, because if I say yes or no, it'll give people indications of whose it is, which doesn't matter. All that matters is the information that's up there, as far as I can tell. And I will tell you, I did not write pretty much anything, or most of what's up there. So it's not my work. That is a fact. That is an absolute fact.
Well, let me ask you in another way, okay? Unless you want to do it, Mike. Let me ask you in another way. Viken Nikodian.
Yes.
Did you put up this website? Is this your website? Is this your creation?
I simply will not answer that question at this time. Whoever's it is, that person needs to be concerned about their privacy. Now think about it. So it's not a question that's going to get answered. Not by me, anyway.
Okay. All right. Well, Where were we last night?
The
We were
trial.
talking the trial. We were talking
Sure.
about we kind of got up to that point, and in terms of the affidavit, there we're at number 13 or 14,
Oh, that.
and do you think that you can get from there to the end of this thing, which is really not that much further than that? I think there's 19. 20.
And start with what you describe as the trial. Look, I'm going to make a note to all of our
Sure,
listeners.
sure.
You might be saying, "What? What are you talking about? I'm lost." Look, I'm sorry. There's so much to talk about on this subject that
Mm.
you're really going to have to go look at last night's show. I'm
Right.
sorry, but we really do try to help everybody along. Hello, this is the Dale and Mike Inside News Show. All right, yeah, we're doing what we can, but you're going to need to look at last night because there's so much to cover tonight. Now, at this
Right.
point, Viken Nikodian, who used to work with Oath Keepers, he's going to tell us about the reason that he left Oath Keepers. His contention is, and we're not taking a side on this, we're letting him have his say, Mary Emmerich, who's the public information officer for Oath Keepers, will appear tomorrow night. Tonight we have Viken on. We've offered Joseph Rice and Mary the ability to come on before Viken, during Viken, while whatever. Everybody's going to get a chance to talk, but tonight it's Viken followed by the Sugar Pine mine owner, one of the mine owners, George Backus. He promised he'd be available at the bottom of the hour. We're going to give him that, but we were right at the point where Viken was going to tell us about something that he's described as a trial. And please start with that. Would you please, Viken, just humor us and start with the trial, please.
Of course.
And briefly set the stages to what that whole trial thing's about.
So it goes like this. The quick synopsis is, at some point Bruce McFarland had told me outright that he was taking certain software, proprietary software and other things from me and making a special deal with Stuart Rhodes, who is the founder and I guess chairman of Oath Keepers National, and to get money for Bruce to have other people develop, and that they would do the work for free, and then he would pocket the cash. And he actually spelled this out in his email, which you guys have. And he told this to me, and he actually sort of wrote it in this email as well. So I was highly alarmed, and
because this is your intellectual property,
and someone else's too. I mean, there's another person involved here who has property rights, and I have a legal obligation to defend that person by at least getting to the truth of the matter. And Joseph Rice repeatedly insisted that there is no such deal. Bruce McFarland said there is. So the only person who could answer that question would be Stuart Rhodes. And I made every effort to have a small, private conversation with myself, Joseph, Bruce, Stuart Rhodes, and the one other person. And the emails about this, I kept small and private because I didn't want this to spread around. I just wanted to get an answer. That's all. Just get to the truth. Because I couldn't be sure who was telling me the truth, Bruce or Joseph, because they were saying opposite things. And clearly there were proprietary software and rights involved. This was like, from what Bruce was saying, it's the taking of other people's proprietary stuff. Their intellectual
now, you decided based on this, but you did decide not to go to court or not to sue or anything to protect your intellectual privacy, intellectual property rights. Why did you not? I could guess, but I'm going to let you say, why did you not then go to court to protect your rights?
Two reasons. First, because I didn't have confirmation that the deal was actually made. Only Stuart Rhodes could answer that. And two, I didn't want to expose Oath Keepers to this huge public exposure over this issue. You know, I wanted to just simply solve the matter quietly within the Oath Keepers, and a 10-minute conversation is all we needed. We had plenty of opportunities to do this, mind you, but you know, we just a simple 10-minute conversation, answer the question, and then it was probably it could have been nothing. It could have been nothing. So I was giving that that all due consideration. So I wanted to get to the truth of the matter. And I still don't have the truth of the matter because of the actions that were taken by Joseph Rice to prevent me from ever managing to have that conversation with Stuart Rhodes.
Now it is in public. Of course, now it is in public because this website's been introduced. You have provided some of that material on the website talking about your intellectual property rights.
No, it's not even the website. It's not even the website. Bruce McFarland's, when he sent that email, and you guys got a copy of that, in which he said, yeah, there's a deal in the works, and I'm going to keep the money and all that. He sent that. He blasted that out to a large group of people, the whole leadership team and whoever else. I didn't even realize that at first, So I was trying to keep it small and quiet. Bruce just, really exacerbated it. He escalated the whole exposure thing, and then all of a sudden people were asking questions, and the argument just got bigger and bigger. I did my best to not let that happen.
Right. Now, and maybe this has to do with the other topic, which is the security topic, but
yes.
The communication that I got from Joseph Rice about that was that that you were pestering him about the security issue while he had other things going on, and so that was the reason why he delayed, because he thought that your concerns about the security were not an issue considering the other things that were going on.
Clearly, the level of alarm at the operation about the hacking of our stuff, if Joseph wants to claim that this was a high security operation, that we were concerned about having our information hacked and intercepted and all that, well, that's a very high priority risk. Clearly everyone else understood that risk. They were running around like crazy saying, oh my gosh, we're being hacked. And that is a high priority risk, because we're having these supposedly private communications to coordinate people and materials, and especially coordinating security through
which theoretically, if the quote, adversary is the one who is looking at this, this type of information theoretically could get somebody killed, or more than one person. So, okay.
And even to have knowledge about who was showing up, information on the people and what they were saying to each other and all that. That was what we were risking. And I believe the other operators who were involved in this would understand that. Joseph may try to dismiss it, but it doesn't make sense that he would do so. And believe me, there's plenty of time to deal with it. Plenty of time.
For our viewers, those of you who are new to this, obviously you're jumping in the middle of a conversation. You're probably going to say, what's going on? Listen, again, sorry for you if you're brand new to this. It started last night. This is a continuation of that. We're not going to go 3 hours last night or tonight, okay? So don't worry about that. And so we're having Viken on here again. Sorry if it's not making a lot of sense. You will catch on eventually, but to bring you up to speed, and then we're going to talk about the trial. It's being called a trial.
The trial.
One of the bones of contention about the Oath Keepers is perhaps there were people that were operating as treasurers who were not allowed to see the money that was coming in and where it was going. That's one of the contentions that I wondered about. And then another one was, is it true that this organization, when they were upset about Viken Nakodian and the things he was saying, had something equivalent to a trial where Viken was not allowed to attend, and then they decided they're going to kick the guy out of the organization? Viken, can you pick up the ball there, please?
All right. So Joseph, before this trial, had said that he would finally, that sometime in the future, after the operation was over, he would allow a leadership meeting. But, as he stated in his own email, I would not be allowed to present evidence or witnesses. That the only thing he would allow would be certain content that he chose from the emails in which we were arguing about this problem. And he repeatedly insisted, again, that I had not provided him any written evidence to support my claims, which was outright false. I mean, you guys have seen the security scan that I gave him, which definitely backed my concerns. So he told me in advance that I would not be allowed to present evidence at this leadership meeting, and that's where I just threw up my hands and said, forget about this. You don't even understand what due process is, and that's the point where I resigned, because I realized that the values that we Oath Keepers uphold, which is due process, everyone gets to have their say, they get to present their evidence, like the miners were supposed to be able to do with the BLM, both appear in court, they all present their evidence to resolve the situation. That was a very big issue for Oath Keepers, right? So why would Joseph Rice not allow it within his own group? He wouldn't allow it, which is horrifying to me.
And what he says that the security scan doesn't mean anything. He says that
He's wrong.
he said that Bruce McFarland made a security hole for the purpose so that you could go in and do the work that you had to do with the website, and it was set up specifically for that reason, and that is the security issue that is showing on that scan.
And
That's
I'm going
what
to
he
say, I'm going to call BS on that, because as a server administrator, and anyone out there who's listening who is a server administrator knows this, you turn off the FTP and you use SSH to connect. SSH client, WinSCP on the Windows machines, and that is a
Right.
secure encrypted communications channel. It takes 5 minutes to set up. Turn off
Yes.
FTP, create a WinSCP connection, 5 minutes. 5.
Yeah.
Joseph
Yeah.
is saying there wasn't time. No, come on. Now I happen to
Well, and
understand this.
I
Joseph apparently
know
doesn't.
I know that when I was working for this radio network, we were uploading our stuff to the person that was distributing, or the company that was distributing the show nationwide, and we had to switch over from FTP to WinSCP for that exact reason. They were getting hacked, and that was an issue. So okay. So now, in terms of this trial, and there's the question of due process and all of that you being able to present your case. If I am now understand that the Oath Keepers organization is not necessarily the same as your status as a as a citizen of the United States. Like if I own a plumbing company and there's a dispute between two of my plumbers, and ultimately I make a ruling on it, whether or not the plumber, which plumber likes what I did, that is what that's kind of so why not just take this and go, okay, I got screwed here, and move on.
A couple reasons. One, as an Oath Keeper, I'm offended by the very idea that we would fight so hard for the right of those miners to appear with the BLM, both sides present their evidence, and come to a reasonable conclusion. This was vitally important. This was the whole reason we had the operation. How can Oath Keepers turn their backs on that principle, which is a very American principle? We make sure that everyone gets to face off and have their say so that we can come to a reasonable understanding of the truth. How can they turn their backs on that and screw over their own people just to reach a conclusion that is desired by Joseph Rice, by preventing examination of the facts and evidence to favor someone out of a personal preference of his? It's horrifying to Oath Keepers, at least to me and the other people who have understood this.
Right, and what he says is that they had a 4-hour meeting with all of the, a lot of the emails and all this kind of stuff. I understand you were not invited to this, but that where they took all of the evidence, they asked Bruce about it. He responded very calmly and systematically told them. Laid out his case, and they decided for him, or Joseph decided for him.
Sure, of course. And let me ask you, would Bruce be the sort of guy to and Joseph also very calmly tell you that FTP hole was opened up just so I could work, that they created that security hole so I could work on the server? Think about that. Would very calmly and confidently tell you that, which any server administrator would know is utter BS. So think about this. They went through the same routine in their mock trial. Joseph, in his own email, insisted again that I never provided written evidence, so clearly he did not show them the evidence that I had, because I have it. I gave it to him. It was damaging to the claims he was making. I don't even know if they saw the stuff that I needed them to see to understand the actual risks that Bruce inflicted on us. I don't even know if they ever saw that.
Viken, we're going to talk a little bit about you behind your back here. Okay.
Oh, go ahead.
Mike, it seems to me, and looking at this situation, that the two things that concern me about this are people that are being called treasurers
Mm-hmm.
and don't seem to have the authority, or were not given the authority, to actually act as treasurers, watching over the money that comes in that was being donated to this, and then
Mm-hmm.
making sure where it goes. And now
and
they
and and uh, and his rationale, Joseph's rationale for that, is
right.
that these people were basically treasurer in name only, and that they were not members in good standing. They were not actually, some that were not even actually oath keeper members. And I guess they he had asked if anybody wanted to be the treasurer. Somebody said they wanted to be the treasurer. He goes, okay, you're the treasurer. And then they never, and then later they found out that this person wasn't even an oath keeper member, and so they couldn't be held in trust
Well, it's
or
okay
in a
with me
trustworthy
if
position.
if Joseph and company want to call these people a ham sandwich, but if they're going to call them a treasurer, just as an outside observer, it seems a little odd that the treasurer wouldn't be allowed to track the money. Otherwise,
Understood.
why
Yes.
are you calling them a treasurer?
Right.
I don't think that there's anybody on either side of this could say, well, that makes perfect sense. It doesn't make a lot of sense. Okay, that's one.
Right.
And Vikan's involved in that because he was involved in putting together the website where you click on the button and you can get the money in. And so from his point of view, intellectual property and the other things are concerning, but this was a thing where, if a TV station's another kind of TV station, thank you very much, is going to ask him a question, he might want to talk about the money part. The other thing that concerns me a bit about this, and again, we're talking about him behind his back, he can hear us, but and that is this thing about having an organization where you're going to get a bunch of people together and decide in a 3-hour meeting, 3-hour tour, or whatever, that you are going to say goodbye to somebody, but you don't allow them to come in and say, now, wait a minute, here's evidence, here's this, here's that. And it is kind of I mean, they can do it if they want to that way, but I think it is a
Mm-hmm.
fairly good point, Mike, that this is Oath Keepers, and they have a certain reputation nationally, and that just seems to not quite exactly fit with the kind of fairness that they stand for. Yes, wrong?
Yes, no, I agree with that. However, that is their prerogative. And
Yes.
I'm not saying that is correct or that I would agree with that. However, they can do that. Well, they did it. So that pretty much says it right there, and there is no legal recourse.
No.
Really.
Well,
So
I'm not interested in legal recourse either. Not for
yeah.
Okay,
that.
Vikan, I'm sorry, bud, but we're just going to have to say goodbye to you now because
All
we
right.
did tell you ahead of time that
Yes.
this first section was going to last 25 minutes, and you got an hour plus yesterday. So we're going to say bye-bye to you, and of course, as always, on every one of these things, we're opening it up to others and you that have more things to say. This story is not going to quickly go away, and we want to
Right.
thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me on. It's been wonderful, and I'm curious to see how the rest of the show goes. Have a
Okay.
great evening, guys.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Okay, so
See you,
Mike
Vicky.
is going to get in touch with George Bacchus, who's one of the mine owners, and Mike's going to call him right now. He's probably going to put himself on mute, and we're going to say goodbye to Vikan, who's going to sign out. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk a little bit about something else that happened this morning that kind of bothered me personally. So I got a chance to speak with Mary Emmerich, who's the public information officer for the Oath Keepers. And I invited her right from the beginning, please tell Joseph Rice that he's invited to come on the show. I said, Mary, nothing against you, but he'd even be better because he's the head of Oath Keepers. You're their PR person, their public information person. She agreed, but she said that their agreement, and I talked to her twice yesterday and once today. She said that she was on the road, she wasn't available to meet immediately, and that they had chosen that she would be the representative. Okay, you get a chance to decide how you're going to do it. Then the thing that kind of bothered me, and I'm going to lean forward just here a little bit and see that I've got this straight. Okay, the thing that kind of bothered me is that one of the ways that people communicate these days is they talk on social media, and they shared their stories and say what they have to say. Hold on a second, I'll see if I can find this. and share their stories with everybody, which is appropriate if that's what they want to do. And here's what Joseph Rice wrote on Josephine County politics. We go on Josephine County politics because we're about Josephine County politics. And he says, Josephine Grant, who is somebody that, it sounds like a pseudonym, doesn't it? Sent out an email saying, go look at this website, in addition to the initial email that we got saying, look at the website. He says, Josephine Grant is Viken Nicodian. I apologize to all, as he has used a stolen email roster from Oath Keepers of Josephine County. If anyone has concerns or questions, please contact me directly. And Mike Jones answers, I was under the impression we contacted you through Mary, which we did, I did. You're welcome to come on and say your side of the story. And here's Joseph's answer. You know, I've been friendly with Joseph. We've done a couple dozen stories about Oath Keepers. I think that they're lucky that we're covering this story, because you can imagine the kind of story that you'd get out of some other news organizations, which don't need to be mentioned right here. And Joseph Rice answers, Mike, you and Dale have my phone number. No, we've never had his phone number until today. That's the way that they wanted it. That's the way that Mary Emmerich, their public information officer, wanted it. We never had his phone number. He might think that we did. We just didn't. That's all. Okay, it's too unfortunate that he says this in public. That's not true. Yet never contacted me directly, as you have in the past. We have not in the past, and I had no problem with doing that, and I asked to get a chance to speak to him. Mary says, I will handle this. So that's also, as Dale has always said, the story must be factual and truthful. Right. Dale has an email sent to Vic from the Oath Keepers leadership team. I think that explains it all. Well, not quite. And our position. Great, but I still want them to come on and say their part. Part of ethical journalism is fact-checking before running a story, which you failed to do here. Now, hold on a second. You might think that we had your phone number, but we didn't. Now, Mike has your phone number. I still do not, okay? And that was the way that it was. And the idea that perhaps we never tried to reach you, that's false. That's too bad that you said that, because we're trying to be very, very fair to everybody, okay? Then, picking up on that, is a person that has a real public persona in Facebook, Diane Mackin. Joseph Rice. This isn't the first time Dale has done a story without fact-checking, blah, 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 blah. Okay, look. It's too bad that she didn't like a story that came about her dad. That's just too bad. But it's got nothing to do with this story. And that was lots of people said that they knew exactly what happened, and they were sitting inches away from this guy, Harry Mackin. So Diane Mackin can take any kind of stand that she wants. But what's unfortunate about this is that we've been the only ones that have been following this story faithfully. We've done 24 or 30 stories, I don't remember the exact number, about this. We've been out there every possible step of the way, and we've been more than fair to everybody. And so some of the rhetoric needs to be toned down. We don't know in this story who the Bill Cosby is. And you know what I'm talking about. You think that you know the guy, and then it turns out, well, maybe he wasn't such a funny guy after all. We don't know who Bill Cosby is in this story. But we're going to let people speak, and we're going to let them have their say. And right now, we're letting one of the mine owners, George Bacchus, have his say. George, tell us what the heck's going on here, would you?
Well, there's a lot of scuttlebutt out there. I talked to my partner, Rick Barkley. He gave me permission to say, quote, he is very happy what the Oath Keepers has done for us, and so am I. And if there's any questions toward Rick, they should call Rick Barkley and talk to him personally. But we are both totally satisfied with everything that the Oath Keepers has done for us.
Now, there was some question, and at the top of the show, I don't know if you were listening to the show, but we had asked Viken if there was a question to ask you about the legal defense fund, and if you had access to that money, because there is sort of a contention out there that you have the access to that money and the access to that account has been withheld from you. What's the truth about this?
Well, at first we had an account set up by Kevin Perouse and his girlfriend Jessica Hayden, and the funds were to be collected for the Oath Keepers. I mean, not the Oath Keepers, for the Sugar Pine Mine Legal Defense Fund. Well, turned out to be that Jessica and Kevin took all the money out of the account and ran. We figured about $1,800. By the time we got that straightened out and filed charges against them, we had the Oath Keeper set us up another PayPal account, and it's been working ever since. It's been slow. I've heard stories to the effect that we weren't getting our money out of it. So I talked to several people into making donations from Portland and all over the place, and they made donations through the Oath Keeper site onto our legal defense fund, and everything turned up right and true. I have no problems with the Oath Keepers and our account. Our account is fine. Everything is fine, and I wish all these scuttlebutt stories would stop.
George, it was obvious when we spoke to Viken yesterday, and honestly, I don't remember was during the show or right after the show, that the reason he suggested to us yesterday and repeated it again today that we should ask you a kind of a tart question about how's the legal defense fund going is that he felt that there was a question about whether or not you were getting the money and was it ending up in the wrong hands. So would you mind stating that again about whether he's, well, in this case, kind of full of it, or whether he has a point, please?
Well, every dime that's been contributed to the defense fund, we have received as well as we know, and I believe it's slowed down because the excitement of the whole ordeal has slowed way down. The most donations was taken in within the first 3 to 4 weeks, which got ripped off by our first legal defense fund set up with PayPal, and we're completely satisfied with the way things are.
So could he have gotten the impression that somehow you were dissatisfied with this, or that you thought that there was a problem with it, but in reality it was just because the donations had slowed down on that account? Is that a possibility?
Well, I believe so. I believe that when things slow down, where you don't get a contribution for, a couple weeks or so, even up to 3 weeks, and all of a sudden it'll bust loose and you get several in a row. It has really slowed down. The heat of this whole story has slowed down on the Sugar Pine Mine incident, which you can't ask any better teamwork than we have from the Oath Keepers. Has been absolutely true and straight with us. I have no problems there.
So, but let me ask you, when that slowdown of, say, 3 weeks happened without money, did you then question whether or not you were getting, the flow of donations, that somehow your access to the account or the access from that PayPal account to your account was being intercepted somewhere?
Well, I contacted Joseph about that, and he says their donations really slowed down too. So I gave him the benefit of the doubt, and I went ahead and had people make donations from here and there to find out whether those donations that are being made are coming into us, and they sure were coming into us. So there was no problem. I had just thoughts, of course you would have, when you start hearing these stories that are just stories. And I told these people, I cannot say anything without proof, and I cannot say who, what, or where, and when without knowing it truthfully. And truthfully, what I know is just what I've told you.
Well,
Now,
that was a good step of having those people do that, George. That was smart.
right, yeah, that was smart. You got verification. Now, let me ask you, what is the status of your case? I'm assuming that you still do need donations for this because you haven't yet been to court with them, have you?
No, it isn't really a court. IBLA is a setup where they take all the arguments from the BLM and they take the arguments from us and all of our paperwork and what we have for proof, and they go over it, and then they make a decision and they contact us back. And it'll be a while. We're just now getting our appeal is all in. We're getting the arguments in. We'll be in next week, so that ought to really speed things up. But so far, it don't look like BLM has a chance in hell of winning this.
Right. Now, whereas it is not a court case per se, the lawyer doesn't know the difference, does he? He charges the same for both.
Well, yeah, we don't even get to appear. It's a hearing on. It's an in-house court. It's what they call the I can't think of the name. Anyways, they decide, and whatever they decide, BLM cannot come back and appeal it. We can appeal it immediately. If it goes in just against us, we can appeal to the federal court, which will happen. But they have nothing but harassment against us. They just have nothing. And our attorney says, we got a chain of title that's solid as a rock, clear back to 1853, and we got all the paperwork we need.
Now, George, just today, because we cover the county commissioners and what they're doing in county politics, just today the commissioners were talking about you and your partner, Rick, and this is your picture over my shoulder here with Joseph, and they were saying that you are not allowed to do any mining at all while this case is being resolved. Well, how the heck are you keeping body and soul together?
Well, it's pretty rough, let me tell you. We have to do this. It's in the stay. It's agreed upon by us and the court that we will hold ground until the decision has been made who has the surface rights. And we feel it's all total harassment. We feel that we're being bullied. We feel that they thought we'd just run off and leave like most miners do, but we will not back up. We're too old to back up. We're going forward.
Now, the other thing is that Cheryl Walker, I personally think rather predictably, took the side of the BLM in today's conversation in the little back room. And what she said is, well, they don't really have the surface rights, and the BLM is probably right about this, and that's why they were warning them, and etc. But certainly, no matter how it ends up, there's the possibility of an appeal. Whether you lose for round one, you're going to appeal, I would assume. And if BLM loses round one, they're probably going to appeal. Is there a possibility, look, I'm sorry to be mean about this, but is there a possibility that this is going to go on for years and years and years, George?
Well, it could, but most likely not. BLM cannot appeal their own court decision. If the BLM judges decide with us, that's where it goes, and it cannot be changed. Administrative judges has been ruled on by a court back east. Administrative judges are illegal, so we don't know where that's going to go. That came out about 4 weeks ago, a month ago.
Yeah, I saw that.
And so we don't know what's going to happen there. I'm sure that they're going to fight that all the way because they really like that.
Yeah,
their in-house court.
That's their power. I mean, that would totally almost put them out of business. Everything that they do would have to be run through a court of law.
That's right.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Interesting.
we've got one more question, unless Mike has one for you, George. So unfortunately, there is a website out there now that's making allegations that it's a little difficult for all of us to know what's right and what's wrong. That's the unfortunate part. It could be totally right. It could be totally wrong. It's probably a little of both. Isn't everything these days? So I'm going to ask you an unfair question. Label it ahead of time. Who's right and who's wrong in this? Is it Vika Nakodian that's right and it's Joseph Rice that's wrong, or the other way around, sir?
Well, that's a hard one to answer because I can honestly say that Joseph Wright's been honest with me, and that's all I can say.
So have you seen this website we're talking about?
No, I have not.
Okay.
We really want to thank you for coming on, and please thank Rick for us for thinking about coming on. Keep in mind, we keep saying this, we say it again and again and again and again. Anybody that has something substantive to say about this case, about this situation, we didn't make it up. We received this as well as other people did. We're the only ones that are covering it. I don't know if they're ever going to come and do anything. Any other so-called media are going to cover this, but we're delighted to give every person that's got something to say that fits this case to come in and say it at length. Tomorrow we'll have Mary Emmerich on. We're delighted to open it up to Rick, to you again, to Joseph, again and again. Joseph, you're welcome to come on here, and anybody else, and Vic again, Viken again, whoever's got something to say. Now, some of this is going to be decided in the court of public opinion. Yeah. It's fireworks, all right, but we're trying to give everybody their say and be squeaky clean, honest about giving you the chance to say what you want to say. Do you have anything more to say, sir?
No, I don't. Thank you.
Thank you for your time. So, Mike, do you have anything more to say? Do you want extra time?
No, not really. I think that it's a great thing that unlike the commissioner meetings where you're limited to 3 minutes, and then if they throw something back at you, undermining your argument, because while you're talking, they're writing down what they're going to say against you at the end of the thing, where you don't have any opportunity to speak back. This is the opposite of that. You get to come in. It's like theater in the round with you and the rest of the world. They're going to be sitting there watching you. You can say whatever you want for the time that we have to offer you, and it's air it out. That's what we're doing.
Well, one last little thing that we might mention that's a bit of an analogy that I like. Well, why did you even need to bring it up in the first place? Why didn't you fully vet this story? You should have gone and done every bit of investigation.
It's not our story.
Yeah, first of all, brother, maybe no one will ever know all the facts about this. I know that's just going to, I like it when you know all the facts. Well, good luck. I mean, you can read the Courier. You can. The other thing, too, is if there's some kind of controversy that's happening with the presidential candidates, and somebody were to put up a website saying, "Oh, well, that guy killed his dog," okay? Well, the news reporters would go to him and say, a website's been put up that says, can you cut his microphone? A website's been put up that says you've killed your dog. Do you have anything to say? And the guy could say easily, well, I don't even have a dog. What are you talking about? I haven't seen the website. Or he could say, I've seen the website and this is what's wrong with it. Or he could say, I haven't had a chance. Many different answers. Answering, well, we'll get back to you in a couple of days. It doesn't work quite as well, but if that's your choice, okay. So what we're trying to do is, it's already out there. It's a full-fledged website with a lot of details on it. And as I pointed out to Viken yesterday, keep in mind, no matter what you say about the author of this thing, if your information is on there and someone else puts something about this, that, or the other thing that's much more inflammatory than what Viken has said, his is small potatoes compared with some of the things that are on this website, keep in mind that everything that these other people say is going to reflect on you personally, Viken. Mike?
Yeah, it's true. And I mean, whoever authored this website obviously has something against Joseph Rice, and it's clear that if this is an airing out of differences between Viken and people at Oath Keepers or whatever, that's one thing. And it's questionable whether you put that online or whatever. But the rest of the stuff that's on that website also is, I mean, some of it is pretty heavy duty, and I don't know how that's going to be substantiated at all. And so to put those two things on the same venue seems a little different to me, and I would question the thinking of doing that. And if Viken knows who this person is, you might want to ask him about that.
Yeah, well, there's several sides to this story. Now we're going to hear from Mary Emmerich tomorrow. She's going to come on, and we're going to give her same amount of time generally as was given to Viken. We said, just tell us your story. And he did. Oh, he sure did, for over an hour. And Mary will be afforded that opportunity. She said, you can ask me questions. That's good. I would encourage Joseph Rice to think again about coming on and saying your side of this rather than going through Mary, but it's your choice. You can handle this any way that you want to. There are other questions about things that I have personally seen that are not related to Oath Keepers, but are related to Joseph Rice. And is he really going to run for commissioner? He's indicated at one point it looked like he would. We don't know for sure, but what you need to realize is that when you run for something like commissioner, everybody and their brother is going to come forward and say good things or bad things about you. And at some point, you may not be able to do this through your press representative.